Rich kids laugh, but this black girl silenced them all. Watch her sing at midnight. It was a night drenched in starshine and secrets, with the moon hanging high like a spotlight over the crumbling mansion. Laughter echoed from the grand balcony, where a posh crowd of rich kids clinked glasses, their smiles sharp enough to cut. They were the kings and queens of privilege, wrapped in designer clothes and arrogance, but in the chill of the air, something was stirring. On the cobblestone path leading up to that hollow laughter, a single figure stood. Her name was Maya, and she was no ordinary girl. With skin like polished mahogany and a voice rumored to be touched by an angel, she felt like a ghost in a haunted house, a girl out of place, yet destined to flip the script. The rich kids sneered at her, their eyes dancing with a cruel curiosity. Who did she think she was? They were ready to mock her, ready to suffocate her with their privilege, but the night held an electric charge, one so strong it was almost palpable. This was her moment, and she could feel the beat of her heart matching the pulse of the universe. The whispers grew louder, the shimmering promise of a night rich with possibility. Suddenly, the music from the mansion faded, as if the world had hit pause. The crowd turned, facing her, curiosity crackling like the static before a thunderstorm. Maya took a breath, her chest tight with anticipation. All eyes were on her. The laughter transformed into a hushed murmur, a collective uncertainty washing over the crowd. It was now or never. She stepped forward, her voice itching to break free. One girl against a tide of disbelieving gold-plated confidence. She placed her hands on her hips, and the world around her faded. All she could hear was the roar of her own heart. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the spotlight, Maya closed her eyes, feeling the cool night breeze kiss her cheeks. She raised her hands, and silence fell like a thick fog. She had something important to say, more than just a song. She had an entire world to share. The air thickened, and for a moment, the rich kids' laughter was a distant memory. With one powerful note, she unleashed all the pain, hope, and heartache she had bottled up. Like a tidal wave, her voice crashed over the crowd, stunning them into a breathless awe. Her melody wrapped around them, pulling them into her world. Faces transformed as she sang. Confusion shifted to wonder, and disbelief turned to admiration. The night began to blur, time slipping like sand through fingers, but would they accept her? Would they let her silence them forever? As her last note hung in the air, the question loomed heavy. What did they see then, beneath all their shiny facades? Because what happens when the spotlight reveals the truth that sometimes, the underdog sings the loudest? The last note lingered, hanging in the air like a fragile crystal, ready to shatter. An electric stillness gripped the gathering. Maya's eyes fluttered open, searching the faces that had just moments ago twisted in mockery. Now, they were transformed. Confusion marinated with disbelief, and she could see the wheels turning in their heads. Then, out of the silence, a single clap erupted. At first, it was weak, hesitant, a tentative reach toward validation. But it quickly swelled. Soon, hands were banging against designer jackets, expensive nails tapping against pristine glass. The applause echoed against the stone walls like a thunderstorm rolling in, and the flush of triumph surged through Maya. They were moved, she could feel it in the energy thrumming around her, but as euphoria wrapped around her heart, doubt lurked in the corners of her mind. Did they really understand her? In the back of her thoughts, shadows whispered. The rich kids, the ones who'd laughed and jeered, could they see past their privilege? Or was this fleeting admiration merely a trend, a momentary distraction from their gilded cages? Dismissing the doubt, she raised her arms again, a gesture of gratitude, an offering. The crowd went wild, drowning her thoughts in waves of excitement. That song had been born from her struggles, the simmering injustices threaded through her life. She was more than the underdog, she was a warrior with scars. And she was ready to take action now. "Thank you," she shouted into the night, her voice hoarse but full of fire. "This isn't just about me. It's about all of us. The stories we carry. The dreams we hold." The energy of the crowd shifted. Their laughter had faded, replaced by an eagerness to hear what she had to say. Muffled whispers floated through the air. Maya glimpsed uncertainty, maybe even guilt, on some faces. The privilege that once insulated them now seemed like a shackle. They had been confronted with something real. But before she could dive deeper into her message, a sharp, mocking voice sliced through the warmth. It belonged to Taylor, the de facto queen of the group, her perfectly manicured nails glinting in the moonlight. "Wow, Maya. So profound. Careful, you might just start a revolution." Her words dripped with sarcasm, laughter bubbling from her friends, the crowd's mood teetered again. Maya's heart sank, the familiar stabs of rejection stabbing at her. Swallowing hard, she held her ground. "This isn't a joke, Taylor. This is real. People like us can unite to build something beautiful." The atmosphere thickened. Some rich kids exchanged nervous glances. A few quietly began to nod, their laughter replaced with intrigue. Could they really change? Were they capable of understanding suffering beyond their extravagant lives? Maya took a step forward, fueled by the flicker of hope igniting in her chest. "We have power together. The world might see us differently, but our voices can resonate through all barriers." She dared to dream, to challenge them, her voice growing stronger with every word, but just as she thought she might be breaking through, a partygoer slipped away from the pack, snickering. "Good luck with that, girl. You'll need it," he spat, breaking the moment. The laughter returned, but this time it felt brittle. Maya clenched her fists, the taste of bitterness souring her mouth. Maybe the laughter wouldn't fully die. But maybe there was hope. As she surveyed the crowd, something shifted again. A flicker of recognition in some eyes, a tiny break in the armor of privilege. Still, could she leverage this chance? Would they look past their glamour and face the truths hidden in their privilege? The night swirled with questions, her heart raced. Maya took a deep breath, the weight of fate heavy on her shoulders. What would happen next? Would her voice shatter the darkness surrounding them, and then, across the sprawling lawn, the trees rustled, an unexpected wind picking up. An ominous howl sounded, cutting through the night. What had the wind carried? Was it a sign or a warning? The howl hung in the air like a ghost demanding attention, a grim reminder that shadows could creep closer, even when the spotlight shined bright. Maya's heart raced, scanning the tree-line where darkness seemed to pulse, an entity lurking just beyond the glow of uncertain laughter. The grip of anticipation tightened around her, a vice squeezing all doubts, all uncertainties. The crowd shifted, whispers flitting like startled birds, unease crackled through the air. Faces that a moment ago beamed with newfound appreciation wore tight frowns, brows furrowed in confusion and fear. Maya could feel the tension ebbing and flowing, like the tide, people pulled between exhilaration and trepidation. Then, in a movement that felt too slow, a figure broke from the shadows, tall, cloaked in dark attire. The way he moved felt both graceful and eerily predatory, as if he was gliding rather than walking. Gasps rippled through the audience as curiosity battled with fright. His presence ignited a fire of whispers, igniting sparks of suspicion among the crowd. "Who's that?" Someone murmured, the excitement from Maya's earlier performance rapidly dissipating. Maya strung the pieces together, making connections in her mind, a dark puzzle unfolding. She had seen him before, on the outskirts of her world, a protester, a voice from the streets, fiercely fighting against oppression. The same storm that swirled through her heart echoed in the grim lines of his face. With every step he took, the crowd parted with instinctive caution, their laughter dissipating like faint echoes. Maya took a breath, caught in the weight between their awareness and ignorance. This was not the moment she wanted, the unexpected barrier between her vision and the now. She stepped toward him, her pulse surging with a blend of resolve and fear. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her words steady but colored by confusion. Speaking truth into the void, he replied, his voice low and haunting, reverberating through her like a low chord in a melody. "You've lit a spark tonight. But spark alone isn't enough." The fire of indignation ignited in her, rigidity banishing any doubts. "I'm trying to reach them, not silence them. They can change," she argued, motioning towards the gathered group who were now staring, wide-eyed. She needed them to see, needed them to listen, and that had always been the battle. "What makes you think they want to change?" he shot back. "They will only hear you if they feel something real." And then, without warning, the winds howled again, uprooting the tension and bringing with it a chill, tangible with uncertainty. A feeling inside Maya shifted. Was this a warning or just the night playing tricks? "Feel what?" she demanded, her voice rising from the depths of truth. "The laughter? The privilege? The easy lives they live?" "Pain," he answered simply, his gaze piercing through her, as if he could strip away her facade. "Every single person here needs to know what it's like to bleed." The words lingered in the air, heavy like rain clouds ready to unleash a storm. The crowd began to murmur again, inwardly questioning their secure identities, their golden comforts. Maya felt their anguish starting to unravel at the seams. With a shaking breath, she clutched her fists. "You don't have to bring pain to prove a point. Can't we rise together?" Yet his stare turned into something more fierce, more than just a man confronting privilege. It felt like he was unearthing buried truths. Would they be ready for that? Before she could press him further, the crowd shifted, some stumbling backward, whispers spiraling like a cyclone. Maya turned, alarm cleaving her heart as the edges of the night wrapped around her. Something was changing, faces twisted with uncertainty. What ignited next would decide everything, and then, in the charged silence, the howl returned, echoing through the confined space, but this time it felt like a warning. Was not just meant for Maya, it was for everyone. Would they pull away, or would they stand with her against the darkness? The air grew heavy, thick with expectation and dread. Maya's hands trembled, her heartbeat racing like a drum echoing in her ears. The howl faded, leaving an unsettling chill that slithered around them, gripping the crowd in a vice of fear. It was a silence so stark that even the crickets had ceased their melodic chirps, as if they too sensed the shift. Maya faced the cloaked figure, their eyes locked, an invisible battle raging between them. "You think pain is the answer? That's not all they need." Her voice rang out, unyielding, catching the attention of the frightened audience behind her. "Sometimes it is the answer, Maya," he replied, stepping closer, the tension crackling like static. "How can you expect them to understand if they never confront their own suffering?" Around them, murmurs escalated into a storm of voices, confusion mixing with hidden resentment. "What does he mean?" someone whispered, their eyes flitting nervously across the gathering. Others exchanged glances, uncertainty cementing their feet to the ground. Maya could feel the discontent bubbling just beneath the surface. "This isn't who we are," she shouted, her voice breaking through the fear like a beam of sunlight. "We can lift each other up without tearing each other down." But doubt seeped into her words like ink into water. Would they really listen? Had the joy they experienced earlier become a distant memory, overshadowed by the dark truth emerging around them? "She's right," another voice chimed in, shaky yet resolute. It was a young woman with tousled hair and a freckled face, staring back at the cloaked figure with fierce determination. "We don't need pain to connect. We can rise together." The crowd took a collective breath, but the figure simply smiled, a smirk that twisted the air. "You're naive, child. Empathy born from joy is shallow, it disappears when the sun sets." His words slashed through the effort to rekindle hope, Maya's heart sank, a heavy weight settling in her chest. "What do you want from us?" she pressed, her voice small yet defiantly loud. "To submit? To wallow in our hurts? That's not the answer." Suddenly, the howl erupted again, sharper this time, as if someone or something was preparing to strike. The crowd recoiled, fear painted across their faces, but Maya refused to back down. "Listen to me. We have the power to change the narrative. Don't let him steal your voices." She felt the strength of her convictions rising with every word. But doubt flickered beneath the surface of her courage, shadows lurking like wolves at the edge of a campfire. Her eyes darted to the trees, where darkness pooled like ink, and she wondered, was it too late for the light? Behind her, she caught the glimmer of reluctant agreement in a few faces, some shaking their heads while others stood frozen in indecision. "Make them feel," the cloaked figure hissed, urging the tremors in the air to grow. "That is when they will truly wake." A young man in the front stepped forward, fists clenched, his face a mask of fury and fear. "We don't have to feel pain to understand your truth. We can do this differently." In that moment, a loud crash echoed from the tree-line, cutting through the tension like a knife. Maya's heart raced, adrenaline surging through her veins. The cloaked figure turned, his predatory gaze fixed on the darkness, lips curling into a sinister grin. As shadows twisted and swirled, something emerged from the fog, an ethereal presence, shrouded in silvery mist. The crowd gasped, stepping back in horror, faces pale as the figure lingered just beyond the light. What is that?" someone stammered, trembling hands gripping the arms of their friends. "Maya," the cloaked figure whispered, his voice silky, yet laced with venom. "The night is only beginning to reveal its secrets. Are you ready to face the truth?" Her breath caught, each heartbeat echoing in her ears. They were teetering on the precipice of revelation, a gaping chasm threatening to swallow them whole. Without knowing if she was ready, the question hung in the air like a thick fog, the answer just beyond reach. Would they stand firm, or would they fall into the night? The figure in the mist began to solidify, revealing an unsettling form. A face twisted with sorrow and bitterness stared back at Maya, eyes like dark pools that seemed to absorb the light around them. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Whispers of disbelief mingled with a sense of impending doom. "Maya!" the specter lamented, voice echoing through the air. "Your joy is a lie. You wear it like a mask, hiding from the truth of what you really are." Maya's stomach dropped. Even in the face of fear, she knew this was no ordinary spirit. It wasn't just an apparition, it was a reminder of everything she'd tried to escape. The unrelenting weight of her own history pressed down on her. Each word from the figure felt like a sharp blade, twisting at her core. "Shut it!" she screamed, trying to banish the darkness that swirled around her mind. The crowd shifted, some shouting her name, others in shock, uncertain whether to run or stay. But the cloaked figure chuckled darkly, reveling in the chaos. "You want to protect them, but maybe they need to witness this." He gestured toward the figure in the mist. "Look at what you're unwilling to confront." The ghastly presence stepped closer, the mist swirling around its body like a shroud. "You think you can fight your past? That you can simply wish it away?" Maya's breath hitched as the figure revealed memories that flickered like old film, her childhood, marked with laughter snuffed out by shadows, her dreams discarded like broken toys. "No!" Maya shouted, but doubt crept into her voice. "This isn't who I am anymore." The specter advanced, eyes glaring with accusation. "Then who are you, Maya? What do you truly believe?" There was a deafening silence as her audience absorbed the weight of those questions. The flicker of doubt that had danced in their eyes was now a roaring flame. They looked to her, waiting for answers, desperate for a beacon of hope amid the growing despair. "Maya," someone whispered, breaking the silence, a young man who had stood up before. His voice sounded small, yet sturdy. "We need more than words. We need to feel together. Maya's heart twisted painfully in her chest. What if he was right? What if confronting their pain was the key? But the thought terrified her. We can be better. We can rise above this. Conflict roiled inside her like a storm. Can you? The specter hissed, raising a ghostly hand and pointing to the trees where darkness pooled thicker. Look at them. Even now, they fear you. A chill wind blew through the clearing, snatching her breath as whispers flared up again. Someone shouted, voices rising in panic as unseen things began to rustle behind the trees. Run! Someone cried. We need to get out of here. The cloaked figure grinned wider, reveling in the turmoil. Embrace the chaos, Maya. It's all you have left. But as fear surged through her body, something deep inside ignited a spark of rebellion that refused to be extinguished. No. We won't be driven away. We will face it together. She stepped forward, arms raised, her voice trembling yet fierce. Listen to me. We have the power to transform. We're stronger than the whispers of darkness. The ethereal figure wavered, its form flickering like a candle in a storm. Maya met its gaze with defiance, willing her heart to resonate with courage. As the shadows intensified, something shifted in the crowd. A young woman, emboldened by Maya's strength, stepped forward. We won't be silenced. We will stand and fight. But just as hope began to swell, a deep growl rumbled from the tree-line, something sinister scratching at the edge of their reality. What's coming? Someone shouted, eyes wide with terror. Maya felt bile rise in her throat as the truth loomed, darker than she ever imagined. Behind her, the cloak fluttered ominously as the ghastly figure faded into the mist. Are you sure you're ready to face the night? It taunted, echoing through the fears of the crowd. Maya held her breath, glancing at the faces around her. Was the unity they were building strong enough to push back the darkness? The forest trembled, and with it, the ground beneath their feet quaked. An unseen tide was rising, and they had to choose. Would they embrace the fear, or push through the uncertainty? And in that moment, before the shadows could swallow them whole, Maya cried out, together. But the question echoed back like a whisper in the wind, would they really choose to face the truth, or would they let the night consume them? The ground trembled again, a violent shudder that shook Maya to her core. It felt as if the earth itself was straining under the weight of their fear. Panic flickered in the eyes of the crowd, but amid the chaos, there was a rising tide of resolve, a flicker of something powerful and fierce. Together! Maya shouted again, but as the growl echoed through the forest, doubts churned inside her. The deep rumble came closer, the whispers turning into feral howls that clawed at the edges of reason. Stay with me. We're stronger than this. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, igniting every nerve ending. Somewhere in that tangled undergrowth, a darkness was gaining momentum. It wasn't just an echo of her past, it was something real and lurking, ready to consume anyone foolish enough to stand still. As the first creatures burst forth from the shadows, their eyes glinted like shards of glass, hungry, voracious. They were beasts of nightmares, born from the horrors Maya had buried away. Trembling figures, distorted forms, remnants of her fears taking shape. What are those things? Someone cried out, voice shrill with terror. They're nothing, shouted the young woman who had declared they would fight. She took a brave step forward. We've faced worse than this. Together. But the creatures moved faster, their snarls enveloping the air, drowning out hope. The crowd began to waver, uncertain. Faces that moments ago sparkled with determination were overshadowed by dread. Look! Yelled the young man, pointing toward the sky. A swarm of dark clouds had gathered, blotting out the moon. It was as if the night itself was coming to claim them. Shadows writhed and twisted, mingling with the howling wind. Run! A voice pierced the air, panic spreading like wildfire. People turned to flee, shoving and tumbling over one another in their desperation. "No! Stop!" Maya shouted, but the chaotic tide swept away the resolve she had tried to instill. She felt sweat trickling down her brow, heart thundering, as she watched the crowd scatter. The beasts lunged forward, their growls echoing like thunder. One of them lunged at her, its jaws snapping, teeth glints of white against the darkness. Instinct kicked in, and she dove to the side, narrowly avoiding its ravenous mouth. "Maya!" A voice called out through the uproar. It was the young man again, fighting against the pack now closing in on them, gripping a branch like a weapon. "We need to regroup." But fear clawed at her throat, constricting like a vice. Maya's voice trembled as she shouted, "Don't lose the light. We made a promise." Then, something within her shifted. She had always wanted to be the light in the chaos, to shine even when it felt impossible. Taking a deep breath, Maya planted her feet into the ground as if rooting herself against the storm. "Listen to me," she cried, hoping to breach the wall of panic. "What we face isn't just a beast. It's our fear. Our shame." The movement of the crowd hesitated. Eyes turned back toward her, straying from the encroaching creatures. "And we don't have to bear it alone." Maya pressed, feeling embers of hope ignite within the mass of trembling bodies before her. "We can harness this. Let it fuel us. Remember your strength." Just as she pulled them back with her words, the spectral figure manifested once more, augmenting the chaos with laughter that cut through the tension like knives. "They'll never believe you. You'll always be a prisoner of your own making." Its words twisted into a snarl, but instead of fear, something in Maya shifted again. Anger, hot and intense. "No more!" she screamed at the specter. "I define my worth." The reaction was instant. Energy surged through her words, enveloping the crowd like a warm blanket. The shadows seemed to waver, just for a moment. She beckoned them closer, arms open wide. "Feel it. Join me." With every heartbeat, the terror lessened, and she saw faces around her brighten, tension easing as they swayed together against the looming darkness. As the growls intensified, the vastness of a single howl combined with the rising chant of the crowd, energy pooling in the air, and then, just as hope flickered like a candle gaining strength with a determined breath, the haunting howl of a creature tore through the night, echoing with such ferocity that even her thoughts were momentarily snuffed out. Maya blinked, heart hammering, as the masses converged on her, ready to band together. But behind them, shadows were colluding, darkness brewing in anger. The ground quivered once more, and the echo of the specter rang louder. "You think this will save you?" Each moment of defiance is merely a step into deeper darkness. The tension rose again, thick as fog, leaving them wondering what came next. Maya tightened her grip on the makeshift stand she had created within the crowd, nerves electric, heart racing. What price would they pay to banish the darkness for good? The air thickened, suffocating under the weight of dread. Maya felt it, a palpable force pressing down on her chest. The growls had morphed into a cacophony of howls that danced at the brink of madness. The spectral figure loomed larger now, feeding off their fear, its laughter echoing through the night like shattered glass. "Hold fast!" Maya shouted, her voice cutting through the tumult. For a moment, the crowd paused, a group holding its breath as uncertainty flickered across their faces. Even amid the chaos, she saw glimmers of resilience in their eyes. "We're not done yet." Together. With every ounce of strength she could muster, Maya raised her arms, the flicker of hope burning brighter with each heartbeat. "Focus on one another. Feel the light among us. Let it drive the darkness back." Then it happened. As if responding to her plea, the energy shifted. One by one, hands started to grip tighter, hearts pulsed in sync. Maya felt it, the warmth of connection blooming around her. The creatures lunged closer, their teeth bared, teeth like jagged rocks ready to tear flesh, but they hesitated, sensing the change in the crowd. "Come on. yelled the young man, his voice fierce and unyielding, rallying those around him. This is our fight. We won't back down now. The ground surged beneath them, thrumming with energy, as the roar of their unity pierced through the shadows. It was no longer just Maya's fight, it belonged to everyone. Fear twisted, losing its grip. With every shout, the masses pushed against the tide that sought to engulf them, the spectral figure's laughter turned to rage, vibrating in the air like a thunderclap. You think you're free? It hissed, the malice seeping into the night. You're just a moment away from despair. No. Maya shouted back, the defiance pulsing ripples through the group. Despair is a choice, and we choose to rise. We are more than our fears. Show them. As if her words conjured an unseen force, the crowd surged forward. Together, they formed a barrier, standing shoulder to shoulder against the beasts that slinked closer, teeth shining like silver under the shrouded moon. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the center of the crowd, an orb of energy that seemed to burst forth from their shared determination. It crackled, illuminating the faces of those around Maya, and then the light shot forward, bathing the creatures in its warmth. The howling ceased. The beasts shrieked, shadows retreating from this luminescent wave as it pushed through the darkness like a beacon, forcing the fear back. Yet, amid triumph, the specter floated, inches from her face, its features distorting into rage. Fools! You think a glow can erase your pain? You'll never escape it. Maya swallowed hard, feeling the claw of doubt attempt to grip her heart once more. Perhaps it's true. Pain is part of who we are. But it's not all we can be. We can struggle, we can heal. With that affirmation, an explosive energy surged forth, the warmth intensifying. The ground responded, tremoring with the collective heartbeat of hope, and as it did, cracks developed beneath the monsters, dragging them back into the shadows from which they emerged. For a fleeting moment, it looked like they were winning, but then, an ominous rumble, like a growl from the earth itself, swept through. Maya's grip faltered as she realized this was just the beginning. The specter's laughter now morphed into a deep, ominous chant, echoing through the crowd like a dark hymn. Deeper darkness is coming. You don't know what you've unleashed. Maya's heart raced, the flicker of hope fighting against the shadows tightening around them, but a sense of foreboding loomed. Had they truly found light, or simply opened the door to a greater danger? What lay beyond this battle? And what would it cost them to face it? Maya's breath was trapped in her throat as the chant reverberated like a funeral dirge. The ground beneath them quaked, and the pulse of energy that had surged through the crowd seemed to flicker, desperately trying to maintain its brightness against the encroaching shadows. She felt a chill creep up her spine, turning the warmth of hope into ice. Stay strong. She called, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. Fear gripped her again, a whispering doubt slithering into her mind. Had their effort been for nothing? The crowd around her, once roaring with determination, started to waver. Faces she had seen resolve themselves against despair now twisted in uncertainty. We can do this. The young man shouted again, but his voice cracked slightly, revealing his own fear. Maya's eyes scanned the crowd, taking in the way their eyes darted around, seeking assurance. She had to be that assurance. And then it hit her, a power deeper than the light they had summoned. Remember why you're here. She yelled, her voice bold, slicing through the gathering storm. Not just for yourselves, but for each other. But just as the tide seemed to turn, a massive shadow surged from the depths, rising in a monstrous form that swallowed the light. Pulsing tendrils coiled around the figure, growing larger, darker. The terrifying specter morphed into something distinctly more menacing, its grotesque limbs clawing at the air, dripping with malice. Let the truth be told, it roared, its voice echoing like thunder rolling through the valley. Only in suffering do you find your purpose. The crowd gasped. Many stumbled backward, fear clawing at their throats like talons as despair washed over them. Maya's heart raced against the increasing turmoil, her resolve wavering. Her mind screamed to flee. But then came an unexpected shift. A child, tiny and innocent, stepped forward from the group, eyes wide but shining with unblinking conviction. The child reached out a hand toward the lurking shadows. "Go away," they declared, their voice echoing with surprising clarity. Maya felt the heat of rage and sorrow well up inside her as she recognized her own fear reflected in the child's face. It hit her harder than any blow. The darkness can only thrive on fear. Maya yelled. "Let our hope drown out the despair." With a collective intake of breath, the crowd consolidated their efforts. Whispers transformed into cries of affirmation, and together they became a wall against the encroaching shadows. Fingers intertwined, hearts beat in rhythm. The aura of light pulsed again, stronger than before, as they fed off one another's courage, but the specter laughed a cacophonous roar that threatened to split open the world. "You think this trifle can bind me?" It taunted, its dark arms stretching unnaturally toward the sky, and then, bursting forth from the heart of the crowd, 1,000 tiny sparks ignited. The light incandesced beyond any previous measure, brighter and more vibrant than anything Maya could remember as the radiance clashed against the monstrous figure, yet, even as the darkness began to dissolve under this fresh wave of hope, a chilling thought wormed its way into Maya's mind. What if they were missing something crucial? What lay in the darkness that they hadn't yet faced? "Fight!" she screamed. "Don't hold back." But her voice was just one of many. The light roared forward, the air crackling as shadows swept into retreat but only to regroup in a sinister flicker, revealing hidden forces behind them. Something larger was coming, something that could snuff out even this brave light. Maya's heart stuttered as she felt the ground shift beneath her feet again. "What is it?" she gasped, panic trickling into her resolve. And as those menacing shadows began to coalesce again, she realized, darkness wasn't finished with them yet. What awaited them in this battle beyond the veil of fear? A powerful tremor rippled through the ground, sending shards of fear racing up Maya's spine. The crowd stiffened, eyes wide and hearts pounding as the shadow morphed into a swirling mass, sinister and alive. Murmurs ricocheted off the surrounding hills, anxiety rising, suffocating. "Stay together!" Maya shouted, her voice strained but steady. The pressure was mounting, and she could feel it tighten like a noose around their unity. The specter loomed larger, a nightmarish figure draped in darkness, its presence a visceral reminder of their vulnerability. Desperate, Maya turned to the child who had bravely stepped forward moments earlier. "What's your name?" she asked, trying to anchor her rising dread with the child's courage. "Lila," the girl whispered, her voice raspy but unwavering. "I'm not afraid." Maya drew strength from Lila's simple truth. "Of course you're not. And we won't be either." She looked at the crowd, drawing them closer, urging them to remember what they were fighting for. "Remember the light, remember the love. We are stronger together." But the specter's laugh splintered her resolve, a cacophony of dread that echoed through the valley. "Pathetic little creatures," it bellowed, its breath cold and foul. "You think you can defeat me with such pitiful hope?" With each taunt, the shadows shifted, coiling tighter around the group. Maya's heart raced, wild and frantic, skipping a beat as despair clawed back at her. "We can't let it in. We can't let it win." She locked eyes with the crowd, looking for any sign of wavering faith. To her surprise, those fierce plates of light began to shimmer again around them, pulsating as their interconnected energy sparked. The collective resolve surged, a harmonized heartbeat growing louder in the pounding silence. Hope started to crack through the fears that had held them captive, yet, from the corner of her eye, she spotted something horrifying. More shadows were emerging from the darkness, sinister forms that twisted and writhed like snakes, their eyes glowing with malice. "No! They'll overwhelm us!" she gasped, motioning for people to shield each other. Fear raged in the air, tangible and biting. Maya felt it scrape against her skin, threatening to sap her strength. But standing close, she could still see determination flickering in the crowd, glimmers of light amid the crisis. Suddenly, Lila stepped up again, this time with an emboldened scream of her own. "We won't let you take our light." The child's voice rang out, piercing the oppressive atmosphere, each word igniting a new fire within the crowd. And in that pivotal moment, Maya felt it, a swell of warmth rushing in, like the sun breaking through a heavy cloud. She seized the energy, charging toward the shadows with newfound vigor. "Yes. Let your truth fuel you." They surged as one, energy pooling and swirling, forming radiant barriers against the gathering darkness. Maya felt invincible, like she could push back against the roaring tide. But just then, something even darker emerged from the heart of the specter, an entity larger than fear itself, looming ominously with tendrils stretching out in all directions. Maya's throat tightened, her heart pounding like a drum, panic creeping back. This was no ordinary darkness. Was it their fears materialized? Her breath quickened as the shapes coiled and undulated, threatening to snuff out the glow that flickered in angry defiance. "Stay strong," she cried, but doubt snaked back into her chest. What if their power wasn't enough? What if they faced something they weren't ready for? As shadows and light danced in a furious ballet, a chilling thought struck Maya. She had not yet uncovered the truth that lay buried beneath their shared fears. "Fight!" she cried again, willing herself to stay anchored. But the larger mass began to converge, overwhelming some who faltered, darkness creeping in like a thief. The next moment felt electric, the air thick with anticipation. Maya's eyes widened. What lay ahead held the answers, the key to their survival, but could they grasp it before the shadows extinguished their light? A new wave of shadows threatened their unity, and Maya could only wonder, would they discover the hidden truth in time, or would they be lost forever in the darkness? The storm in the night reached a fever pitch. The shadows writhed and twisted like serpents, inching closer with every pulse of darkness. But Maya stood firm, drawing strength from Lila, who gazed at her with wide, innocent eyes. It was a defining moment. They were anchored together, a small flame against the encroaching void. "Listen to me," Maya shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We are not alone. The bonds we share, the stories we carry make us invincible." The crowd hesitated, the tendrils of despair brushing against their resolve. But just as panic threatened to spiral, Lila raised her voice, a singular, resounding note of truth breaking through the din. "We can stand together. We won't let it win." A spark ignited within the swarm, igniting embers of hope, flickering against the expanding dark. Maya locked eyes with several familiar faces, and the shared memories rushed back, laughter, moments of firsts, moments of heartache, all fueled by their common experiences, every joy and every sorrow stitched tightly around them like a tapestry. "Feel your strength," Maya called out, beckoning them closer. "Feel your past merging with your present. Here, right now, we can find our voices amid darkness." The whispers in the crowd began to morph, every heartbeat syncing with her words. The ground beneath their feet trembled, the tension surfacing, but fear started to bleed away. Waves of light sparked anew, radiating from each person as they rallied around her, forming an unbreakable bond. Then it hit her. The specter was feeding on their fears, reshaping their dread into something monstrous, a physical manifestation of everything they tried to escape and conceal. "Face the truth," she called, determination thawing the cold shock of anxiety. "That's what we need to do. We have the power to overcome." The atmosphere crackled with electric pulses of energy as they began to push back against the darkness. Hands clasped tightly, unity blossoming amid the cacophony. The darkness recoiled with each word, every affirmation echoing through the night air. "Together." The sound grew louder, morphing into a chant, voices swelling from weak whispers into a tidal wave of strength. Maya felt it. Their hearts beat like a drum, an anthem building momentum, crashing forward towards freedom, but the darkness wouldn't let go so easily. It contorted, shifting into a dense, swirling mass, growing denser with each passing moment. With every attempt they made, shadowy tendrils reached, clawing for the flickering strands of their unity. Make them feel. The specter growled, its voice a knife in the night. Make them bleed. Maya pushed against the terror. We are not afraid. She shouted. We don't need pain to feel. We choose joy. We choose each other. The crowd roared as her voice soared, gaining strength. Suddenly, Lila's small form leaped forward, declaring boldly, "You can't take our light. You can't take our love." And just like that, the fabric of fear began to tear. With each exclamation, light pulsed through them, gathering momentum, gathering strength. The creatures of darkness shrieked as their grasp weakened, their shadows twisted beneath the brilliance emerging from the crowd. Then, with one final shout, Maya raised her arms, embodying the collective defiance. If we stand, we change this story. If we fight, we define our path. In an explosion of pure, radiant energy, the light erupted forth, brighter than anything they had ever witnessed. It burst through the darkness, illuminating the night like a star exploded into 1,000 brilliant pieces, scattering the shadows like dust in the wind. As the specter howled in rage and pain, it dissolved into nothing. The creatures writhed and retreated, banished by the collective voices of courage resounding in harmony. The night air quaked with release, a melody ringing in the aftermath. Breathless, Maya turned to the faces surrounding her. They were glowing with determination now, eyes alight with newfound understanding. They had faced their fears and emerged gloriously on the other side. The laughter and mockery seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the unity they had forged. We did it! Lila exclaimed, her innocent voice a joyous reminder of their victory. Maya smiled, tears of relief and joy mingling in her eyes. Yes, and this is just the beginning. We can be the change we wish to see. The crowd erupted in cheers, a wild symphony of voices celebrating what they had achieved together. As night faded into dawn, optimism washed over them. The impossible weight of their burdens began to lift as they stood together, side by side, facing a bright new horizon. In that shared epiphany, Maya knew they were no longer haunted by their pasts but instead, ready to write a new narrative, a story filled with compassion, understanding, and kinship. This was their moment. The shadows would always linger, but the light they radiated would remain their beacon, guiding them through any darkness yet to come. Maya raised her voice, ringing with purpose and enthusiasm. Let us spread this message far and wide. And as they echoed her sentiment, the possibilities felt limitless. The laughter that rang now held promise, and the flickers of hope turned to radiant beams of joy. They were no longer defined by their past but rather empowered by their voices rising together. So take this story with you. Shine bright in your own life. Fight the darkness that looms. Stand together and create change. You are powerful. This is just the start, and now, if you've enjoyed this journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring finish. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.